Hey everybody, happy Halloween. This is Jack with Future Pastimes. I'm recording this on October 31st, my favorite day of the year. And I thought I would do a short video that talks about what are my favorite horror board games that are in my collection. Now, there's a number of horror board games, and there's been quite a few games out in the last couple of years that I just haven't had a chance to play, and I haven't been buying at the same rate that I normally buy. So like I haven't played Horrified, and there's like three or four versions of Horrified now. I don't know how much I would like it. It seems like it might be a little too light for me, but maybe not. I certainly do want to play it. It's on my list of things to play, and there's a lot of other stuff out there. So many of these games are going to seem a little bit dated, but I still play them and I still really enjoy them. And I've got a fair number of horror board games, although most of them, if we're being honest, are zombie themed because I love zombies. But I tried to limit. I'm going to do 9 games. Only 3 of them are horror games. So let's jump in. The first one is Ghost Stories. So this is a cooperative game where you are these sort of kung fu fighters duking it out as a team against different kinds of ghosts and spirits and specters. And really love the production. So, like, I love these miniatures. I love the artwork. I find it's very evocative, and I think the gameplay is pretty good. It's a tough game, and it ramps up, and you've got a variety of different final boss forms that you can play. And it does remind me of Big Trouble in Little China, which is a movie I love a lot. And in fact, I've made a custom Big Trouble in Little China module that I can play with the game that has Jack Burton miniature who goes around and kind of helps, but also gets knocked out quite easily. And there's some, there's like a low pan final boss and some other characters from the movie in there. But yeah, this is a good game for me. I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good mechanisms for cooperative, and it doesn't really, we've never really had the alpha gamer problem with this. And in fact, I've made a couple other custom expansions, so yeah, I definitely enjoy it. The next one on our list here is Fury of Dracula, and I believe it's the third edition is the one that I have. And this is a one versus many game where one player is Dracula and the other players are the other major characters, Van Helsing, Mina Harker, and some of the others that and Dracula is secretly moving through Europe. So the Dracula player knows where they are, and the other players are trying to find, corner, and eliminate Dracula before time runs out. So you have a finite amount of turns to do it. Otherwise, Dracula is victorious. So this is a good game. It's tense. It's much more tense for the players early on, and then as they start to zero in on where Dracula is, much more tense for the Dracula player. So yeah, I think this is fun. Like, Ghost Stories isn't that scary. None of these games are that scary, but this can be a very tense game, and I enjoy this. I've only ever played as Dracula, but I enjoyed it. I've got a win and I think a loss in recent years, so we'll have to see how it goes the next time we play. I'm not sure which one of these games we're going to tackle tonight, but we'll see. All right, our next one on the list is the first of 3 zombie games on here, Last Night on Earth. So this is kind of like a team game, and what you're going to be doing is you are going to have a team of survivors and a team of zombies. And so it's basically, 2 to 4 players, and you've got green zombies, brown zombies, so that well, it didn't really zoom in too much, but there you get the idea. There's a green zombie, some brown zombies. The gray are players. I've started painting mine. I got the characters painted. I haven't painted the zombies yet. I think these work fine. And so you've got a deck of cards that the zombie players can use, and you've got a deck of cards that the other players. And I have made, shocking to hear, a lot of custom cards to add to the game. And there's a number of different boards and scenarios. So like the basic one is like find fuel, get to the truck, get the heck out. And so I enjoy it. There's different objectives, there's different boards, you've got different characters, and yeah, so there's some good replayability, some good variety. It's a good tense game. I like that it is not, I like the team element. So all of the three zombie games on the list, they all play out very differently. So this one is, yeah, if I got four players, this is a good one to play with the different teams. Next one we have is Betrayal at House on the Hill. And this has a few additions. This is the one that I have. I have not played the new Legacy version one, so eventually I'll get it. But there's a lot of mileage yet to get out of the one that I have. And this is a game where it starts off. It's relatively cooperative when it starts off. You're all on the same team. You're exploring this haunted house, which is modular, so you never know how it's going to play out, where things are located. But at a certain point of the game, you're going to trigger the betrayal, and the game will tell you which of the players is the traitor, and or the monster, as it turns out, and then what their objectives are to win and what yours are. So it's different from game to game. There's quite a bit of variety in what the betrayal will be, how it plays out, who it's going to be. You could do the same scenario, but you might have, if you're not playing the same characters, that will play out differently, and it'll be a different layout of the house. So I like that. This one is good. It's nice, intense. It's got some good atmosphere, while you are carefully exploring and maybe trying to find useful items that will help you out later on. But then if the betrayer has all the good items, then that's not going to be good for the team. So yeah, this is a good game. I highly recommend it, and I imagine that the Legacy one is pretty amazing. I can't wait to eventually get my hands on it and try it out. Moving on, we have Arkham Horror, and this has few additions, but I'm all in on the first edition. So this is the one that I have, and I've got all of the expansions for it and all of the extra goodies for it. So this is a cooperative game, and it's a Lovecraftian game. So I'm a big fan of the Lovecraftian genre. I love the tentacled horrors from beyond. So it's one of my favorites. I've got the original Richard Launius one, which it seems like it was a joke and not a legitimate game. Richard probably wouldn't agree. But I have it. I got it for the novelty of it. It's kind of a roll and move, more style game than this one is. This is much more, has a lot more depth to it. And so I enjoy it. Your team of investigators, you're trying to close these gates that are opening up in Arkham or the neighboring towns, releasing horrors and monsters. And before things get too terrible and you unleash one of the great old ones, you have a lot to do. So this is a lot of fun. I've got a lot of custom dice for it. And it can be a table hog. It's also got 80 decks of cards, some of them quite small. So it's it's a day to set up and a day to play and a day to put away. So this is one that doesn't get to the table that often, just because it's just an epic game. I do love it, but we have to prepare ourselves mentally and physically before we dive in. So yeah, I'm due for another round of this because there's so many expansions for it. You've got Dunwich, and you got Innsmouth and Kingsport, and you've got all these mini expansions, not with just miniatures, but just smaller expansions, the museum and the King in Yellow, and just more and more and more. So I have not played with everything in here, and so I do want to get it to the table some more. And I have not tried out the other editions. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't played Eldritch Horror yet, which a lot of people are like, oh, it's great. So I do want to do that as well. Like I said, I just haven't been getting as many games recently, and I know some of my friends have got Eldritch Horror, and they have played it. I don't know why they didn't call me over, but so I do want to do that. But yeah, I'm ready for another experience of this. All right, let's jump into our second zombie game. So Dead of Winter is a really good game, really well designed. Very tense, and this is kind of semi-cooperative. It could be completely cooperative. You just don't know. You're not really sure because you've got an overall objective that everyone can achieve. But then you're going to have like these secret objectives, and some of the players might be traitors. So that that adds to the tension, of course. But even if this were just fully cooperative, even if you engineered it to be fully cooperative, it's very challenging. The zombies, they keep piling up, and you don't have to just worry about them. You got to worry about the bitter cold, because you've got this die that you got frostbite, and then you got the tooth, which means you've been bitten, so your character can die, and it's brutal. At standees, I've been systematically replacing the standees with miniatures because I don't like standees that much. I really prefer miniatures. And so I've been making character cards and getting miniatures. I've been making new cards for the miniatures I have, and I've been finding miniatures for the characters that are in here. So it's a work in progress. One of the things here is you got this is a crossroads game, so you get more flavor from here. This isn't my favorite part of it because it's sometimes I just feel like, oh, we've got this tedious text, we have to keep reading it. So this isn't as big a deal for me, but and in fact, I don't think the game needs it that much. I like some of the random development, so I think that is fine. I think the game has enough thematic in there. I don't need the extra flavor, but some people really respond to this, so there's something for everybody in here. It's a really good game, one of the best zombie games ever. So, and there's like a sequel thing that I have only played once, that I really want to play with some more because I like what it adds. It adds a lot of just really creepy and gruesome elements to the game. So that is something I am looking forward to. All right, next up on here, it's kind of a sci-fi horror, but it's definitely got horror elements, and it's Doom. And I have both versions of it, but I do think that the new version is a little bit better. And I played that on my birthday. We had a day of board gaming. And so, yeah, it's pretty similar in many ways to the original design, the Kevin Wilson one. And so I like them both. These miniatures are a little bit higher quality, which is great. And I've painted mine, so I couldn't really play it until it was painted, but they are. So it's Space Marines, you're on Mars, there's a gate to hell, and then monsters are coming in. So this is one versus the others. So one player is all of the demons, and the other players are the Marines trying to eliminate them. So there's it's a really tight game, and it's very challenging. It's challenging for both sides to win. So and that's the hallmark of good design right there. So it may be weighted a little bit more towards the demons, but that was certainly the case in the first Doom. It seemed like it was much harder for the Marines to win. But now I find, I think the Marines, the last time we played it, the Marines did manage to win. So it seems like it may be balanced out a little bit more, but it's a really good game. I highly recommend it. I loved Doom. I really loved Quake. I'd love to see a Quake game. Quake 1. Quake 2 didn't really do it for me because it was just more like, Unreal. It's just a fight game, where Quake was a horror game, and so I really liked Quake. But maybe I'll make some custom Quake expansion moving forward. And then we've got our next and last zombie game. This is my favorite zombie game. It's Mall of Horror, and this one is not cooperative at all. What's really interesting, this is like one of the most clever designs in a game I have found. I really enjoy this. Everyone is a different sort of faction. You've got the rednecks and the men in black and the police, and you've got these dials that let you vote for if we're going to get attacked, the zombies get into this room and somebody's going to get eaten, everybody gets to vote for who gets eaten. But you're also using the same dials to determine where in the mall you're moving, because you're constantly on the move as zombies start to pile up at different locations. And so you're trying to get to the point where you can either get everybody in the same location and then you can be rescued, or just at a certain point, when you get down to a certain number of survivors, then you just you figure out who has the most points. And each survivor has a different point value, the different type. So when you do have to sacrifice one of your survivors, you have to be like, do I get rid of the high point value one who has no ability, or the ones with the better abilities that are worth fewer points? So it's just really good. Now there's a sort of a re-implementation of this that's a little easier to get a hold of because this is out of print. It's called City of Horror. It's very similar. It's good. It's got a lot of standees, which I don't love. And I haven't been working as hard on the replacing the standees with miniatures. But it's got like this giant tower that you build out of cardboard. And so it's kind of funny. It's a little bit different. It doesn't have the dials. It has these little cards. So it's clearly very similar. I've been working on what I call the mega mall of horror. So it's just a bigger mall, has more locations, and it's got a few custom elements in the game. That's also a work in progress. I've got the board, which is great. I've got a lot of the cards. I just got to finish up the characters, and then we get to our last game. It's another sci-fi game, but it's this is Nemesis. It's basically the movie Alien as a board game with aliens that look different enough from the alien, so that they haven't really gotten sued yet. But I just enjoy this game. It feels very thematic. It's very tense. It's a game where everyone has secret objectives for how they win. So you could end the game and no one is the winner. Even if everyone survives, nobody completed their objective, so they didn't win. And yeah, the game plays out. It's got these great miniatures. I'm not sure about the scale. This seems a little bit absurd. But there's a sequel one that came out a few years ago, and then there's a new one that's coming out where the scale is much more makes more sense. But this is one where you're exploring this ship. You don't know. You know where certain things are, like you know where the bridge is, and you know where the engine room is, and where the hyper sleep chambers are, but you don't know where the other rooms are, like where's the surgical center and where's the armory. So you're exploring that, and you're trying to move quietly around, and you're listening, and you're hearing strange noises, and at a certain point, that noise is going to be one of these intruders, one of these aliens coming out. And this is the queen, so she's extra big, but the smaller ones are still absurdly large. But I've painted mine, and they look great. The miniatures are really great sculpts. It's really high quality. It's a big box with just a ton of stuff in it. Doesn't really necessarily take as long to set up as some of these other epic games. It takes longer to put away, but just really thematic. I think the design mechanisms are good. I've made a lot of custom objectives. I don't like the objectives as much where you have to make sure that the player on the right of you is dead, because you can't directly attack people, so you have to sort of trick them into dying, which is, I don't know, not as good. So I've got a lot of other objectives that I've made, and I've made a few other custom expansions for the game just to add a little bit more to it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that third version of Nemesis. And this is a game where I've taken miniatures from like another game, Deep Madness, which seemed like it would be a really great horror game. I just didn't really like it as much. It was way too fiddly for me. And but I love all those miniatures, so I've been adding them to other games. And really what I should say is this is great, but here's what my number one game is. So there is a 10th game that is my favorite horror game, and it's called The Others. And I was all in on this Kickstarter for The Others. This is, you are one versus many. So one player is controlling one of the 7 deadly sins that has been manifesting as these horrific Lovecraftian style monsters. And as you can kind of see there in the background, that is the avatar of Pride. And you've got some heroes there, and some of them are not even fully human, but like one guy's a werewolf. And then you've got these corrupted citizens that they've turned to evil, and you have these other manifestations of whatever the 7 deadly sin, the sin that you're using. So you've got all these, 7 different sets of villains, one for each sin, and then there's this thing called the Apocalypse, which has the 4 horsemen as well as these giant monsters that are roaming through parts of the city. It's a really good design. It's really elegant. You get a lot of depth to it with very simple mechanisms. It's a dice chucker, so you're like, I get to roll 12 dice, and so for people who are like, oh yeah, the more the merrier. It's great, and just really a lot of fun. And yeah, I have added a lot of custom stuff. So like all of my Deep Madness stuff has shown up in this game as well. And I've designed it so that you can have another player where you have two sins playing at the same time, so that that one versus all of the others is really two versus the others, and you feel like you've got a teammate. So this is a fantastic game. It was never really in retail. I guess you could sort of get it. It's more of like you find those resellers that they get their hands on it and then they sell it to you. So this is hard to get a hold of. But when I saw the artwork and, I was like, oh, Eric is a good, consistent designer. So I imagine, having never played it, I was like, I imagine this will be a good time. And it is. It's one of my favorite games of all time and in my favorite horror game. And yeah, if you live in my area, let me know if you want to come by and have a game of this because it's great. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my daughter's favorite games, and some of her cousins enjoy playing. And I usually end up being one of the sins. I do relish being that player. It scales really well too, but I like to play it with the maximum number of players. So, which for me is 6. Normally it's 2 to 5, but yeah, I can get that extra sit in there. So there you have it. Let me know what your favorite horror games are. Let me know what you think of any of these games if you've played them. I'm sure I'll get some recommendations, and yeah, I'm happy to play. And if there's some other horror games that are not on my radar, let me know because I love horror and I love horror games. That's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.